further ado to introduce the man of the hour, my father, Randy Carver.
Switch it. Yep, we're good.
Sid wanted to be here, but that was the closest we could do today, so we're glad we had her. I'd like to thank you all for coming out, and particularly for your donations for the Salvation Army. Nationally, demand for the services is up almost 50% this year. In Lake County, the Painesville office is currently serving 2,197 people per week. There is huge demand. But, based on what we saw in the truck and what we had from noon's lunch, looks like we raised about 3,000 pounds of food. And that's, congratulations to you. That's 12,000 meals, and that's enough to support them for about 6 weeks. So, thank you very much, and congratulations. I know I'm the only thing standing between you and dinner, so I promise to be brief, but I do want to kind of quickly update you on where we're at. It's been an interesting and rather turbulent year, I think punctuated by some fairly vocal and visible minority complaining about everything from capitalism to carbon credits to global warming. So it's an interesting time. 2012 is our 26th year in business, which is kind of hard to believe. Thank you. And we're certainly proud and honored to be your partner. Our mission's been very simple since the beginning, which is to help our clients maintain and enhance their standards of living while simplifying their lives. And clearly, we understand it's critical to strike a balance between living today and living in the future. But obviously there's a lot of change. And I think change is something, it's really the only constant. And certainly the pace of change is just unbelievable. 5 years ago, the Skype we just used didn't exist. 26 years ago, the internet didn't exist. And things just get quicker and quicker and quicker. So I think it's very important to rise above some of the noise and focus not on the hype, but focus on the real risks that we're facing. The question becomes, what's a real risk? To hear the media, you think we're in the middle of this horrible time. The fact is, this guy took more of a chance driving to the airport than did jumping out of the plane. The risks that we face today, the real risks, number one is inflation. The risk the dollar tomorrow is not going to buy what a dollar today does. Two is a catastrophic illness. And certainly Medicare is not getting better to what's happening. Taxes. Does anybody believe taxes are going down? No, of course not. Unreasonable expectations. Either withdrawing too many funds or expecting to make more than we will, or not understanding how long we need the money for. People are living forever. Just since we started in business, I think the life expectancy's gone from age 76 to about 120. And of course, market risk. So, the question is, where are we at? The interesting thing is, right now, we're in a situation where the fundamentals are as good as I've ever seen. From a purely economic standpoint, I'm not saying people feel good. I'm not saying everybody's better off, because certainly we have issues with real estate and unemployment. But if you look at the economics, things are as good today as they've ever been. And I think in the next 5 minutes, you'll see that. The reality, though, is The stuff we're talking about today, the issues, are no different than we've talked about for the last 40 years. What do we talk about today? People are talking about recession. How bad is it? Europe, is it going to take us down? Social Security, what can the nation afford? 1974, we have the same discussion. 1992, 1982, we were talking about Social Security. And that's when they first raised the age from 65 to 67. But they were smart because they were politicians. So it didn't kick in for about 20 years. They're all out of office. The deficit. We keep hearing about this huge deficit. The 1% in 1971, they're talking about the wealthy are getting wealthier and the poor are getting poorer. In 1984, we were talking about the huge deficit. It's no different than today. The market crash in 87. Entitlements. Again, we came back 1981. Can we afford welfare, Medicare, Social Security? Now we're hearing about Israel and Iran. Should we bomb Iran? Should they bomb Iran? Israel's been besieged, that's since 1974. They've been besieged for 2,000 years. It's nothing new. So, when we look at these things, I think we have to differentiate between social issues and economic issues. When we talk about a company laying people off, that may be bad socially, but the stock will generally go up. Because if a company automates and they can produce more goods at a lower cost, economically that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's good if you're the one that's been laid off. But the fact is, innovation displaces people. And ultimately, they'll find other types of things. The other side to that is that our economic system is 180 degrees at odds with our political system. Our economic system is capitalism. Capitalism says, if you make the money, you keep the money. If you don't make money, you don't get it. Our political system says, we're going to vote by popular vote, and then we're going to try to make things more fair, based on the will of the majority. So if this half of the room is working and making $1 million, and this half doesn't make anything, whether they're untrained, unskilled, unable, unwilling, doesn't matter, that's capitalism. And now we're going to have a vote. And the vote is for a 50% tax on these guys, so you get half their money. How many of you are going to vote for that? All of you. And then these guys say, you know what? We're only getting 50 cents on the dollar. Why should we work that hard? So they work less, they make less, tax revenues go down, and we have another vote. So you have this conflict. As we get into the election year, I think it's important to understand there's this inherent conflict, and the media is going to focus on the short term, the negative. And the reality is, both the media and the politicians have an incentive to create crises or to take advantage. So if there's no crises, we don't need the government, and you're not going to watch the TV. So, if we look at the fundamentals today, why do I say it's the best it's ever been? And here's some things you probably haven't heard. In 2010, the United States manufactured more goods than China, Germany, and Japan combined. In 2010, we manufactured more goods than the next 7 biggest countries combined. Canada, Russia, Mexico, Spain, India, Korea, Brazil, France, the UK. The reason is China's making plastic widgets and t-shirts. We're selling Boeing Dreamliners. We're selling weapon systems. We're selling things that cost billions of dollars. If we look at retail sales, we keep hearing nobody's working. Retail sales in the United States are the highest they've ever been. Thanksgiving weekend, internet sales were up 39% and store sales 24% from a year ago. People are spending more than ever before. And in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, they're borrowing to do it. They're using credit cards. That was bad. Guess what? Our savings rates have been going up for the last 3 years. People are saving double today what they were 2 years ago. So those retail sales, that's because people are working.